If I look back at when we stopped using fungicides and insecticides, it would be at least 12 years, which is pretty amazing to me that we've been able to achieve that. But once you stop having to use those things, you suddenly see other benefits coming across the whole ecology of the system. Now my farm is on a path of health rather than illness.
Oh, look, I always like you feed in your paddock. You know, when you walk on a soil, you can tell if it's hard or soft.
Now I'm amazed how soft that soil is really.
You can smell it as well. You do the soil health principles. You look at the aggregation, you look at the species, water infiltration, the roots.
Look at that mat of roots there.
And guess who happens around that? That's where the party's happening, because all the microbes are living in there.
All of those are simple on-farm tools that will show you if you're heading in the right direction.
What we're looking at here is a self-sown crop of canola. So this was feast canola last season, grazed and then harvested. Normally it would be sprayed out in the summertime and kept bare earth policy, waiting for the next cereal crop. But I foliar fertilised it with the Talon Fert, and it's what we see here now is quite a good establishment of a fodder canola. And it's about 1.5 kilos to the hectare that we're seeing here. I'm pretty happy with that. You're seeing a lot of fibrous root coming off those main root laterals. It's got a good depth of taproot, which is going straight down. So it's showing that there's no compaction layer there, even though it's been sown only probably a mil or two deep. And yeah, that just shows me that the soil structure is in good health.
This crop is extremely stressed, water stressed at the moment, but you know, that leaves healthy, quite tough as well, because remember, it's the watery plants that the insects can get into. So it's literally the strength of the leaf. We can see here this new leaf, even as dry as it is, this healthy little critter, and this one is. Some of the older leaves are starting to be a little stressed from a lack of moisture. But what's held the moisture in is this. I'm going to pull it apart and you'll see it's like a carpet that's protected the soil. And we can see, I think that's all mycelium.
Yeah, it is.
That has actually been growing in that when it was moist. I'm breaking that down, and that will break down into that humus layer, but really it's covered the soil. Soil tests, leaf tests, tissue testing, DNA sequencing, all of those are really important as well. So we would test this most active leaf if you're doing a sap or leaf tissue test, and 90% of the time crops come back that it's not nitrogen they're deficient in, it's actually other nutrients. Yeah, so it's really interesting that, you know, we seem to use nitrogen as a top-up for the nirvana for everything, but what the crop is often calling out for is calcium or boron or zinc or other trace minerals, or magnesium in our case, rather than just nitrogen. You know, we always start with the soil test, because if you do a comprehensive soil test, you'll have your 3 pools of nutrients that are in the soil, and from the base saturation you'll see the structure, and then you'll see the way the nutrients are cycling. Hugh Lovell, who has since passed, used to say our minerals need to be held in an available non-leachable form. And I think it's that point, the non-leachable form, because so much of what we're using today are leachable. We need to hold these minerals in our soil, and they're held on the humus in our soil. So it's all linked, but as I say, I think getting into the paddock, having a dig, having a observe is your first thing.
The big benefits have been across the whole farm. Our animal health has improved out of sight. But then we've also seen in our crops the lack of need to spray them with insecticides and fungicides. We've built resistance by putting the biological inputs and the mineral density into those plants so that they just don't get attacked by those insects and diseases.
I mean, there's very well been productive on a farm, but it all comes down to the bottom line. One area we used was the ABEB benchmarking from 2018 to 2023. And over those years, we were in the top 10 percentile of profitability. Even though our spending was more on putting on fertility systems like humus composting and we still use minerals mixed with the humus compost. When you looked at pesticides, fungicides and urea, that was down. We were in that top 10 percentile. And so that was a great benchmarking to show the profitability.
I think the biggest thing I've learnt is you must wean off slowly. Don't just go bang, I'm not going to do this anymore. You've got to wean down and you've got to make your soil and your farm able to cope with a new system of building soil in a natural way.
So we're looking at someone who's wanting to reduce their fungicides and pesticides. They have to have that mindset change, is that this is the way we would like to go. I think getting into the paddock, having a dig, become an observer and a monitor and a questioner of how am I going to make the change.